great info on Medicaid spend downs and what do you do when you have a spouse that needs Medicaid and the other one doesn't, right? So that's a great, if you didn't had an opportunity to watch it, I strongly suggest watching it because it doesn't matter what state you're in. It's all pretty much similar, similar laws. And then today, I'm really excited to have Ruth here because she's going to be talking about family financial planning. And of course, after going through what I went through, I think it's very important for us to prepare, not just for a rainy day fund, but also prepare for systems and processes for what do you do when you're out, We don't eat if we don't work as real estate agents. And so I had a really good system set up and in place while I was gone, where I got 2 listings signed and an offer signed because my team members were educated, right? But if you're a solo agent, you need to start really strategizing about that, which is important because I didn't know this was going to happen a month ago or 2 months ago. And I have a 4-week recovery. So still got to work. Mm-hmm. And we all know that, all of us 1099 employees. So I'm going to turn it over to Ruth Ladas. Hi, Ruth. Welcome.
Hi, Felicia. I'm so glad that you're doing well. And thank you for the invitation to speak with your group. I'm really passionate about what I do. I know you are passionate also, and I'm sure your group is. So I want to thank you very much for that opportunity.
Absolutely. We're excited to have you here.
You bet. Do you want me to just go ahead and start on my topic?
It's all you. Take it away.
Go, go, go. All right, perfect. Well, hi, everybody. I'm in Fort Myers, Florida, and this is my headquarters, but I run a national practice doing financial advisory work. I own a couple other business interests as well, but my primary focus for, my next 10 years of my career is the financial work I do with people here and throughout the U.S., and particularly the senior market. That seems to be where my sweet spot is as well, partly because of location. But mostly what I do is I help people to make decisions that don't damage unnecessarily their retirement plans or have unintended consequences that they didn't plan for. When you're making big changes in life, like our seniors moving here are, they are making decisions with their nest egg without necessarily always having, the ability or access to professionals. So they're winging it. And you do not want to wing it with your financial future because, if you're down here long enough in Southwest Florida, particularly, you see people come, lose it all, and go back home with less money than they came down with and, less bright futures for their aging years. We really want to protect them from that if we can. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. I help people make real estate decisions that don't accidentally, create these unintended consequences. And, I do that through a consultative process that's not very arduous. I try to be easy for people to work with. So my goal today really is to teach you guys how to recognize those opportunities where someone you're working with would benefit from a conversation with somebody like me, with my skill set. Doesn't have to be me directly. But you're looking for, professionals in your local market, perhaps that could, be this resource for your clients. So I guess that's the starting point, right? Does anybody have any particular wins recently in this regard or case study kind of things they want us to talk about? Can we open that up just for a minute to get a sense of where we are as a group, please?
Well, I have a great topic that came up yesterday with one of my sellers that was signing a listing. She wants her listing to be as much as possible, as high as possible. And we all know overpricing is the kiss of death.
Yeah.
And I suggested to her to take her funds that she makes and, whatever that house is going to sell for, because buyers dictate market price,
right,
and work with a financial advisor
mm-hmm.
to make up the shortfall within 6 months or a year.
Mhm.
Is that something that you would suggest to them?
Absolutely. Talking with your financial advisor about what the proceeds are going to be and making the plans for that and the maximum use of it. Because there are so many financial tools out there, Felicia, for us to do, with a client based on what their needs are going to be. You'd be ideally working with somebody who has a full set of licenses so that they do have every opportunity available. For example, if you work with somebody who's an advisor, but they only do annuity work, that's the only solution they're going to be able to present, right? So you'd want to have at least access to one person who has everything or multiple people to get the ideas of what can we do that's the highest and best use of these funds, right? And what's the best for your particular client's circumstance. Sometimes one solution is good for a particular fact pattern with the same money, right? You can have the same amount of money, but a totally different solution for two different situations. So you want to be sensitive to that. But yes, absolutely. The sooner the better you bring someone in on that, the better advice they can give. And working collaboratively with their CPAs too, if there's going to be some taxable gains to talk about. You want to also be sensitive to that.
Ruth, can I
And
ask you then, when you say that we need to find someone that can do multiple things there, is there a specific title of a person we should be looking for?
Thanks, Lacey. I appreciate the question. Yes, because it is a confusing market. A lot of people will use the word advisor, and because they've taken a course or something and they can put an initial behind their names, but you're really looking for licenses, not necessarily titles. So we're looking for people with a Series 65 license. That's the all-encompassing license that lets you give advice for a fee, like a lawyer would.
Mm.
And then underneath of that, if you want someone who can actually implement the strategies instead of just tell you about them, you're looking for additional licenses like life and health and annuity, Series 7 securities licenses, that type of thing. But the 65 gives you the ability to give advice only and strategy only, and then you can fulfill elsewhere. So at a minimum, you want a Series 65 person so they have the breadth of knowledge to know the security side of things. It also helps if this person has real estate, experience as well, because that by itself, you guys are a really good resource for your people. Developing your skill set in the real estate arena, and you make a real good partner to those people who have 65s, so that you can fill in that gap for them. So thank you for the question. I appreciate it because it's very easy to, think someone's qualified when they say they're an advisor, but you got to dig a little deeper into what is the license. Your license gives you some particular abilities that somebody else who just says they're a real estate advisor might not have, right? You can kind of move that term out there pretty loosely. So thanks for that, Lacey. I
I have
appreciate
a
it.
follow-up. Sure.
Sure.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Of course.
Um, So I come across a lot of seniors in a sense that are like, well, I'm holding on to every penny I have. I'm not just going to pay someone to go give me advice, because everyone talks to everyone and they're like, well, someone, Johnny told me to do X, Y, and Z. What conversations are you having with people, or what verbiage are you using to say to these seniors, like, hey, I think you should have this conversation because I ultimately know they need to sell the house and go into like
Right.
assistant living or something of the sort. So like what are your conversations looking like to have that to guide them to talk to somebody that's above me being a realtor that can talk to them about their financials?
Sure, sure. I really appreciate that, Lacey. Let me go. I have a couple things prepared. And so let me kind of step through some of the questions I think that, you may already be asking or you should be asking. And that'll sort of lead me into how do we frame this for, our discussing with the clients so they understand why we're recommending that they speak with somebody and pay for some advice. So I really think that's a fabulous question. And so thank you for that. If that's okay with everybody, I'm going to sort of do the before you list question series just to, set that framework, that foundation. Some of this is basic. I know you're probably already asking, when you're talking to your listing, appointment. Is this a primary residence or an investment property? That's sort of 101 level. But digging a little deeper with your people, the best you can become warm and friendly with them. And so they really know that you're digging because you want to help. Get them the best outcome. So asking a little more deeply about, what did they pay for the property? What do they think it's worth? Those types of questions. And then, finding out sort of were there major improvements that they made, renovations, and that would affect their cost basis. You're kind of digging down to what's cost basis for them, not necessarily market value, because you already know how to do that. But when you're digging down a little bit to cost basis, that will help them begin to think about what is their gain going to be, and how are they going to use that gain. Another important thing regarding that is with the taxable gain is if they're single or married or widowed. And it's real important for recent widows to realize that they do have this like 2-year opportunity where they can still sell their home and have the double um, tax gain benefit of the couple. Because when they wait too long, then their taxable gain allotment is diminished. And so they can find themselves owing capital gains if they sell 3 years after they are widowed versus 2 years after they're widowed. So timing can make an impact there. So those are the types of things that you would want to, dig deeper for so that you're looking at that. And then also finding out a little bit more about what they want to do with the proceeds. So, for example, if you're talking to somebody and they're saying, well, I want to sell the house here and then I want to go buy a house with cash where I'm going. Or, they're talking like they're going to completely use the entire nest egg when they move. That would be a real good time to, ask them, well, are you working with somebody to talk about the highest and best use of this for your retirement? Because sometimes strategic use of uh, finance is important in retirement. So that will open up some doors for you when you're just getting a little deeper. What are they planning to do? You become more of an advisor and a resource for them when you do that. Some other questions that can kind of dig down and find out these answers if they're not, less forthcoming. You can ask if this is, if the selling of this property is tied to their retirement plan, or their, or is it related to their health? Or are they caregiving someone? Those are all things that can help you know. And then also then finding out a little bit more about down the road, what are they really looking for after the sale? Are they looking to create a monthly income to use the proceeds to live off of? That's an important thing to know. Also, it's good to know if they have other real estate, like rentals or inherited property, other land, second homes, because those things are also part of the picture that will tell you about the taxable gains. So I hope that helps to go through those lists. Were there any surprise questions to what I just said? Has anybody not thought of those already? Did it shed any new light for people? And maybe not. Can you guys still hear me? I want to make sure of that. Yes. Okay, perfect. All right. So, what we do when you guys make a referral to me, let me talk about that for a minute. And hold on a second. I just sort of scripted a couple things and I want to look at it too. And if it's okay, I'll send this to Felicia to share with the group afterwards, a little cheat sheet for you guys, so that you've got something to work off of. So here's a suggested script. I'm just going to sort of read it and we can ad lib a bit. Before we decide on a plan, can I ask, you're getting permission. Are you planning to reinvest the proceeds or is this going to be your primary, are you going to use the income? For living expenses. I'm asking because taxes and retirement income, change with your needs. And I do work with a financial advisor who helps my clients plan this so that there can be no surprises. So if you don't have someone, then, you may want to speak with Ruth, who I work with. That can lead them to asking some questions about, well, who is this Ruth? And, I'll be happy to individually talk with you guys to give you some verbiage about that. I'm real liberal with my time on the front end with people to have them understand what it is that I do and how I operate. So people are not afraid, because a lot of people get afraid, oh, it's going to cost so much money. But it's not really. A little bit of money at the front end can really save you many, many thousands and a lot of grief and headache after the fact. So in terms of a warm introduction, I do have like a little one paragraph I can send you that you can copy and paste. Just basically saying, Ruth, I'm introducing Jane, who's considering selling her property, and this is why. And then just give me one sentence, why, what the goal is, and can you do a quick strategy meeting with her? And then my process, guys, is very simple. After that introduction, I'll schedule a 15-minute conversation on phone or Zoom to just see them in person for a few minutes to get a feel for their situation. And then sometimes I can pretty quickly make a determination for folks and just give them a free 15-minute. And if there's somebody who needs a little more in-depth work, I need an introduction to their CPA, then we can talk about what that might cost. Generally speaking, just a one-time consult with me is between $250 and $500 for, an hour to two of, multiple phone calls. I don't just charge for one phone call because that you never get it done in one call. So, warm introduction, free 15 minutes. Let's see where we go. If I can give them what they need in that 15 minutes, they don't have to engage me for anything. So it's really non-scary, right? Just a few minutes. So the process is very simple after that. Let me give you sort of an example of a reason why they should. So maybe you could use this with your clients. I think we've all had clients who have CPAs who have maybe had some tax advice. And this happened to me a couple of times in my career. I've had folks that worked with me in one area, but not in the advisory area, and they came to me later and said, "Ruth, you can't believe what just happened to me. I sold my property in Ohio, had this big taxable gain, and my advisor, my CPA advisor, said this was going to be my tax bill. So fine, no problem. I paid my tax bill, but after the fact." I then the next year got this upcharge on my Social Security called the IRMA. And so their Medicare cost went from, at that time, like 170 a month to 360 a month. And that followed them for the whole next year for not just the one person, but the couple. So the tax bill is not where things end. When you sell a property and there's a taxable gain, that hits your income and does impact you on your Social Security for at least the next year following that. So this poor couple, they paid a $40,000 or $60,000 tax bill. They thought that was the end of it. They paid another 80 or 100,000 in additional expenses the following year or two, based on just that accidental, the tax guy didn't think about it. But their advisor might have. The 65 licensed person is more trained to look at that trickle down effect, right? Not just what happens to the taxes in that tax year, but what happens later. So that's sort of one of the examples of why getting the high level advice is important. So I hope that helps. Does anybody have comments at this point or questions? Okay. And then let's see, what else could I tell you that would be helpful? How about we talk a little bit about 1031 exchanges? Is that a hot topic for anybody? We've ever heard of that? Okay. Yeah, I see Felicia giving me the thumbs up on that. So yeah, people who are selling properties that are not their primary home, these would be investor folks. They're going to be selling property with gains. And there is this really powerful tool called a 1031 exchange where they can sell a property and then reinvest. And there's a certain process for that. And you can't just, decide on the fly that you're going to do a 1031. It should be pre-planned. So if you're hearing someone talking about they're selling an investment property, that's a real good question for you to ask right away is, what are their strategies for that? Are they going to be deferring the gains and doing a 1031 exchange? Because they need to identify that in advance of the listing even. So that proper parties can be contacted. You need an intermediary to handle the money on that type of transaction. And there are some strict timelines from when the property is sold to when the money has to be reinvested or the property has to be identified to be reinvested into. And that's an important word. The intermediary is the word that you're looking for there. And there are special people who do that because the money can never, ever, ever go to your client directly. It's got to go to the intermediary so that they never touch the funds. If they ever take possession of the money, it's over. It's a taxable situation. So the 1031 is really a hot topic for people to know about, particularly I think for you guys who are in the senior market. Um, so that's probably the main two situations you're going to have. You're going to have people selling their primary home and reinvesting, and you'll have to deal with the taxable gain questions where uh, the marital status is the important thing for you to know, and particularly if they're recently widowed, that's a real important thing for you to catch so that you know how much taxable gain they're allowed. And the 1031 for all of your investor people. I hope this helps. In terms of reaching me, guys, you can certainly get me on Facebook. I'll send out um, a educational piece afterward that Felicia can send to everybody. And I'm available always for those 15-minute free consultations. Everybody here on the call, if you'd like to do something with me, 15, 30 minutes, please let me know. I really would love to coach you and even help you find somebody in your local market. If there's somebody you'd like to find, I've got a pretty extensive network and be happy to help you to do that. Any other questions for me? I think we're 25 minutes in.
Yeah,
So,
we're good. I
okay.
question for you. So,
Yeah.
what if
Mhm,
someone is working with a senior that
mhm.
has investment properties, but they didn't have them as a 1031 exchange? What's that process, kind of simplified process? And why would someone want to do that if they've never done it before?
Sure. Yeah, if they are selling an investment property and they are wanting to make the highest and best use of those gains, if they wanted to let's say for example, they still wanted to have income from investments, right? They're selling the investment property, but they no longer want to actually like manage investments, right? So they want out, right? They want out of investment management. They can still take those proceeds, 1031 them into a financial instrument that allows them to have monthly income, just like when they owned the property directly and managed it, that they can still have that. So they can roll it over to a new property that is in this investment vehicle instead of them directly. And so the gains get moved, they don't get taxed on that, and then they still can get the income off of it. So if they're looking to make income happen without taxing it so much, then a 1031 into that vehicle would be a good use of that. Does that make sense? Did I say it
Yeah,
succinctly enough? Sometimes I struggle with how to give you the concept of that.
no, it
Uh,
does. Does everyone have any questions for her while we have her on a hot mic here?
mhm.
Did everybody learn something today? What's your biggest haha or takeaway? Y'all are quiet this morning.
Quiet group.
I have hopped in late. I imagine you're talking about hiring a CPA or financial planner or whatever. I was
Mhm,
just curious, if I'm looking for a partner in that, what are
mhm.
the best questions to ask? What's the best,
Yeah.
to hire somebody?
Sure, sure. Yeah, and I'm sorry you missed the beginning, but that's totally fine. What I mentioned earlier is that, when you're working with clients that, will have the need of some advice, that it is important to kind of look at the credentials of the folks that you're going to be recommending, because the space is kind of crowded with people who call themselves advisors. And that word advisor is very easily said, but not necessarily is it backed up with credentials. So I always look to licensing. You guys have real estate licenses. That gives you some ability and knowledge with or without calling yourself a senior this or that or the other, right? Your actual license is the foundation of your knowledge. So when I am vetting credentials of professionals, I look at that. What is the foundational license that you have? And then after that, if you've got some other senior this and that's after it, that's fine. But your base license needs to be sufficient for what the task is. So for a financial advisor, I look for a Series 65 license as the primary credential because that's the all-encompassing license that gives you the high-level overview of all investing products and you know, things for your clients' needs, right? So a financial advisor is going to have the breadth of knowledge. They can charge just for advice. They don't have to implement strategies. So the 65 person is your strategy person. So the Series 65 license is the primary one you want to have. That way they've got the most broad experience for giving advice. They can in addition to that, they can have other licenses. Like I've got the full boat, right? I've got, insurance, I've got um, uh, annuities, I've got stocks and bonds, and I've got REITs and all the other products, right? Any strategy I can tell you about, I can actually do. But I don't always do that. Many times I'm just giving strategic advice to people and then they're implementing it with their local professionals or with somebody they already have a relationship with. So you want the 65 person who's like the lawyer of financial stuff, right? To give you your overview. Because we'll get things that maybe your CPA will miss. Like, I don't know if you heard my example of the CPA who said, oh, yeah, go ahead and sell that property. Here's your tax bill, right? But it did
Yeah,
not
okay.
stop at the tax bill. So you want something like that. So that's a great question. And I thank you for giving that.
Thank you, Ruth. That clears up a lot of things.
You're
So
so
thank you.
welcome. You're so welcome. Anybody else with questions? Felicia, you got anything else?
No, I found this really, really helpful. I hope you all
Good.
did too.
Great.
Thank
Um,
you very much. It was very helpful.
Awesome. Awesome. So what we'll do is Ruth is part of our Facebook group. We'll tag her in the post and we'll make sure that if you have questions, you could reach out to her
Love it.
without a problem. But Ruth, this is really important. And thank you so much.
You're
Can I
welcome.
ask just a real quick question? Sorry, I was late getting my mute off.
Mhm.
I'm curious about fiduciary versus non-fiduciary. Is
Good
that
question. Yep.
okay?
A Series 65 has the fiduciary responsibility. So yeah, you're absolutely looking for that. Yeah, everybody has compliance and everybody is, is theoretically going to be looking out for the best interests of the client. So I've never had anybody who's really actually been not in the best interest of the client. However, if your limitation is your license is only for one thing or another, you're going to see that as the solution, or your training might be. For example, I've had folks who worked at banks, they were trained in annuities, right? So, they would give an annuity recommendation to a client, but they didn't have the other credentials, so they couldn't see you know, the other things. So, there's compliance and then there's fiduciary level, right? Good question. Thank you. Of
Ruth, I have just a quick question.
course.
I only know of one person that kind of is in this arena.
Yeah,
Where would I start to find other people that have the Series 65 license?
really good question. There is a website called Broker Check. And you'll be able to look up anybody's name there and know what their financial credentials are, and that will also show you any firms that they've been with. So if they've been an advisor for a long time, you'll be able to see wherever they have worked. It gives you a lot of their background as well. So broker check is a good place. Other than that, I mean, there are definitely are websites for that type of thing. If you want to reach out to me, like I said, I've got an extensive network of people. I'm happy to help you out. I don't know what market you're in, but I'll be happy to help. Okay.
Thank you.
That's a really good thing. I put it in the chat and I'm actually checking my financial advisor right now. I'm like,
Perfect.
I've never asked these questions. I'm like,
Perfect. Yeah, yeah. And
listen,
I encourage
this
you
is
to do that. You
awesome.
can look me up in there. I'm there too. And you will also see if there's ever been any little problems on somebody's history. And I'm going to say that to fully disclose, you're going to find a couple blips on mine because no, twice, I didn't do my CEs in time. Believe it or not, you miss a CE by 1 day and you have to put that on your record. And I also had a terrible bad divorce once. And there's a blip there for a civil situation. But I've been in business for many, many years and people love me and I don't mind at all disclosing. Life is messy and I got kicked in the, you know what's very hard once.
I
So,
think I think we've all been down that road before.
yeah, for sure. We're human. So,
Yep,
but anyway, that's a great
absolutely.
place for you to know exactly what's going on with your person, what their background is. And sometimes it's good to know the blips in the road so you kind of know what they have had to deal with because we've all had our situations, right? And
Now I have another question for you
of
because
course,
I'm on this and this is very interesting to me.
cool, cool, cool.
So now I'm looking up,
Mhm.
say I'm looking up someone.
Right, of course.
State registrations.
Hmm.
Does that mean the states that they're licensed to practice in?
Yes, where they are, at least their home registration is
Okay.
there. Now, sometimes you'll be, helping a client that has a multi-state presence. So, you may have a presence in other states that is not going to show up there. But if they are doing enough work that they have to be licensed in that state, then they will be shown there as well as a
Okay.
multi-state. Make
So
sense?
when it says IA by their state, that's their main state that they work in?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Look, I'm asking all these questions because I'm like, this is
I
really
love it.
cool.
It's fascinating stuff. I agree. I always
It
look
is.
everybody up that I'm working with too. I think it's important to know who you're working with.
And now, why we have you just for a few more minutes, like when I'm
Sure.
looking this up,
Yeah.
how do I know what their license is?
Yeah, it will
'Cause
be showing that. And I'll pull up a broker check myself so that we can,
do you want to share your screen?
uh,
Or
well, yeah, I probably
I'm like,
could.
I don't want to share my screen and blow up
Yeah.
my financial advisor if there's
Okay.
something on here that's not good.
Okay, hold on a second. Let
But I
me,
just, as just novices for
yeah,
looking at this, I've never seen this before. I
sure.
think it
No,
could be helpful. What do
yeah,
you all
no
think?
worries. Let's, all right. So I'm sharing broker check. Can you guys see that?
It's just loading. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't mind showing you me. So here's me. Okay. And I've got 7 years of experience. There's some disclosure stuff. So you click on more details. Okay. So I've been with 3 different firms and that gives you the timeline. And these little red spots are those little times that I had those blips, which like I said, just because you have a blip doesn't mean you're bad, just means something happened to be talked about, right? And
Mhm.
then the state licenses here and the FINRA registrations here. So, all right. So, so I'm Florida as my primary residence, right? And then the licenses, it's been a while since I looked at this, but you should be able to see all of
Oh, I
my licenses.
see now.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah. View licenses expand. Here we go. Detail report. There you go. And so this is like the whole thing about the credentials. Okay. And here we go. Securities licensed approved in 2020. Uh, let's see. Here's your variable annuity contract stuff, right? And regular agent. I haven't looked at this in a while either, guys. So here we go. Series 6. So 63 and 65, these are the big ones that you need, just FYI. And then these others, the 7 and the 6, these let me do actual investments with people. So I can do strategy, charge for that advice, and I can implement on those levels and then on the insurance side as well. So, but yeah, this is a great report for you to run on anybody that you're looking at. Because like I said, I sort of a little pet peeve of mine, people will call themselves a senior, whatever, and you think that they really are like, that's the best thing ever, but it's really just a $500 fee they paid for a course, right? But the base license, right, what they spend their time on, and being able to implement those things, that's really where the real knowledge is from. You certainly can supplement. I don't want to diminish anybody's extra credentials, right? But the base credential needs to be solid. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. This is
Super.
super helpful.
Great. I'm very glad.
How many of you are going to try this today?
All
All right. Well,
right,
thank you
sounds great.
so much.
You're welcome, guys. Really a pleasure. And anytime I am here for you, okay?
All right, sounds perfect. And we appreciate your time this morning. This is really important
You bet.
things for us to learn. The more knowledge that we have for our clients, the better we can serve them and help them during some difficult scenarios.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Ruth. And we'll be putting her info back in, we'll be putting it back in the Facebook group. Jessica will get that up. And then if you didn't have a chance to watch last week's, it's on our YouTube page. I'll have Jess repost that too. Thank you all. Have a fabulous day. And thanks so much for everything, Ruth. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.